Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Sanderlanche podcast. I am Joe, and with me today is
Jack
and Data.
That's right. No Jamie again this week, so, listeners that want Jamie, tune out. She's not going to be here. No, please stick around. We're talking about Elantris, chapters 10 and 11, wherein Raoden, he's building a team for a grander purpose, not just a gang. So that's exciting news. We get a little bit of background on Galladon, although we don't know how true that is. And Raoden does finally reveal who he is to Galladon. Then in chapter 11, we get a meeting of the minds, the nobility that's opposing Arelon. Sarene makes her debut amongst those men and comes up with a ingenious plan to try to bring power back into the hands of the people. So hold on to something, everybody. The Sanderlanche is about to begin.
Feed the fire, set me free in this city of dreams. Push my mind into overload. Hack the wires, smash the team in this city of dreams. We'll be immortal in the code. Mind into overload.
So yeah, I think it's kind of funny because we've made fun of so many times the fact that it's like, and with me is the same people who are always here. But now it'll be like more interesting every episode because you're like, is it going to be Jamie? Is it going to be Dag? Is it going to be Jamie and Dag? What's going to happen?
Yeah, because there probably will be times where it's like, all right, it's my turn to take the child. You can jump on this one, and then we'll figure it from there. But yeah, like don't worry, listeners. Jamie is coming back. We're just still figuring out, living with the child. We'll get there.
The child.
I was going to say, not the child from The Mandalorian. Yeah. That's a different one.
Not spoiler alert, Grogu. Not Grogu.
No, but not gonna lie, I do squee over this baby like the people squee over that one. So.
Oh yeah, you need to get a little Grogu hat. That's always good.
Well, I'm gonna really date today's episode. Today is Australian Father's Day, so.
Oh, well, look at you, first time.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
I've only been at this for a few weeks, and I'm already in. Woo!
That's awesome.
Yeah. Okay, sorry. So yeah, Jamie will come back. We're not hiding her, or we didn't kick her out. She'll be here. It's it's just we're in flux, as we said last week. So, and like I said, it'll just make things more interesting. At the beginning of every episode, it's going to be a mystery as to who's going to show up. So,
by the way, Flux is a game that I like to play.
That is a good
Flux. Game. Yeah. I got several versions of Flux.
I like Batman Flux and regular Flux and Monty Python Flux.
I got Doctor Who Flux. That's a good one.
TNG Flux is good.
Yeah, Star Trek The Next Generation Flux. I also have Star Trek Deep Space Nine Flux. There's just all sorts of good ones.
I want to get Firefly.
Oh, Firefly. I have that one too.
They have Firefly Flux? I didn't know.
Yeah. I don't know if it's just my imagination because all Flux games have lots of goals. Firefly feels like it has more goals than any other. Like you can just get hands and hands full of goals. And like I said, maybe it's my imagination, but that's the way it always feels to me.
This is just a really great reason for me to have a child, because then then we can raise them to play these games that we like playing.
Exactly. Yep. Our older kids are old enough to play a lot of board games now, and we've been having some interesting times.
That's true. It's gonna be funny when he goes to his friend's house and be like, "Oh, you guys have Flux?" And they'll be like, "What are you talking about?" Flux. No. Oh, me and my dad and my mom play Flux all the time.
And then the child must teach them. And it spreads.
We just got the new expansion for Marvel Villainous, and our son was like, "Oh, I want to be Loki. Give me Loki." It was very fun. Okay, sorry. We're that was just that was our standard opening of the episode diversion from what we're talking about. So, what did you guys think of the 2 chapters we read this time?
So, a lot. I feel like they were longer chapters, but not a whole lot happened. A lot of dialogue, which is not bad. Raoden continuing to kind of do his thing, pretty interesting. My concern is there seem to be running a lot, and I, from what I understand, they don't get their stamina back. So if they continue to run all the time, I feel like that's not good for them. They're gonna wear out really fast.
Maybe.
But I don't know. Maybe it's not as dire a thing as what I'm thinking, but I just feel like they run a lot in this book. It seems like in Elantris. So that was a little concerning for me, especially because he's like, "Galladon, you go run." But
I'm not gonna run.
yeah, but I like that he's building his team. He's building a structure, and then you get the sense that he's wanting. It's not just that he's building another gang. It's like, no, I'm he's pro Elantris. He's like, no, I want to make Elantris better, not just like have a rival gang vying for power. Like, I'm in this to make it better for everybody.
In it to win it.
Right, exactly. And so that was cool. I like that Raoden finds out who Raoden is finally. I also like that we got a little bit of a view to one of the gang leaders who Raoden does recognize and knows that he's not actually a noble. That was cool. And then also probably the most intriguing part was Raoden's point. It's like, where are the children? And Raoden kind of shrugs it off and be like, well, I mean, it's hard for people to survive in here. Children probably the same. And that got me thinking, no, there's something else going on. Somebody is taking the children, like, for something in Elantris. I don't know what it is.
Sinister.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but there's a reason we're not seeing children. Because, like, yeah, some children wouldn't be, some children would be too young to survive on their own, but there's some children that would probably become part of, like, their own little children's street gang if they were really out and about. I feel like they would band together in some way and, like, okay, we're against the adults or whatever, but that's obviously not happening. So there's something going on with the children. Somebody's collecting them for whatever reason. I don't know what.
I like this idea that there'd be like a kids gang. We're gonna, like, Lord of the Flies it.
Oh yeah, I mean 100%. Why wouldn't there be?
I was going like Oliver Twist zombie edition.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Oliver Twist and zombies at the same time, sure. So yeah, that definitely stuck out to me. The Sarene stuff was cool. The only comment I would have negative about it is, like, Sarene just, like, and of course we don't know that much about her yet, but she just comes up with this plan. And I don't feel like there's enough background for us to feel like, oh yeah, she is capable of coming up with a plan like this. I did like her witty banter back and forth with the nobles. And I'm not trying to underestimate her because she's a girl or because of her character. But at the same time, I'm just like, okay, where did she get this idea? Like, this just came to her. I feel like there needs to be more background on, like, where this idea came from for them to let people work. And I mean, that may be something that we just don't know about her yet. Like, culturally, she's seen the histories of how people have lived under serfdom and how people have lived under, kind of a land share type of system. But at the same time, I know she's educated, but it's like, okay, well, I don't know about this. So yeah, it was good chapters. I'm interested to see where we go from next. I really want to know about this trial, especially because they seem to shrug it off when she asked about it. So it seems kind of a weird word to use for whatever she's having to do. So I'm interested to know more about that too. But yeah, that's what I think so far.
Trial sounds intimidating. I feel like.
Yeah, it's like Worf walking through a line with, like, people with paint
yeah,
sticks. Yeah,
that's exactly what I was gonna say. It's like a Star Trek thing where you're gonna come up and there's gonna be like a guardian you have to fight or something. I don't know.
Yeah, you got to get your bat left, and then you got to get hit with paint sticks.
Terrifying. Yeah, like, these are good. I agree. I think it's like, yeah, Sarene's coming up with plans very quickly, but, like, I feel like Raoden's doing the same thing. It seems like the two of them are just, like, they're coming up with shit on the fly that seems to be, like, it seems to be routinely be panning out for them. I'm just like, you guys have got to be headed for a fall, surely, because this just seems, I don't want to say easy, but, like, they're coming up with these things that are working out well, and it's all happening very quickly. I'm like, okay, we'll see how that goes. Yeah, cool chapters. Like, Raoden's chapter had probably the most heartbreaking part of the book so far, when he recognizes his old Seon, who is just brain dead, I guess.
Oh yeah,
that bit was pretty brutal, and I think that's the first time we really see, even after he became an Elantri, and Raoden just seemed to, like, to take everything on the chin and just go with it. And that sort of slipped a bit when he saw Ian, and he's just like, oh god. And he put it back up. It's like, he's sort of putting it on to, it's like, oh, I'm so sorry for my friend. But you could tell he's actually hurting now as a result. And it's like, this guy's been through a lot, and he's really just trying to keep a cheery face on it all. But, like, yeah, there's shit going on under the surface there, which isn't really coming out even in his narration. But the mask slid for a bit there, I guess. But yeah, like, So it was all pretty good, but yeah, like we said, Sarene's chapter was really just a lot of talking. It was interesting to see the nobles. I did think, because I remember I predicted last time that one of the people at Hrathen's meeting would be one of the people at this meeting, and I thought I had him. It's like, oh yeah, there's this guy here. No, that's Edan. The other one was Idan. God damn it.
Crazy names.
Yeah, I don't know. The names in this book are just sort of throwing me for a bit of a loop because a lot of them are so similar. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, they're so similar and unusual that it's like, even when they're not similar, it's like, I don't remember which one of these weird things is which one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, like, normally I don't really have an issue with, because, I mean, A Song of Ice and Fire, there's so many characters who are named after other characters or just happen to have the same name. And it's like, by rights, they should also be just as difficult. For some reason, I have no problem sifting through those. But here it's getting to me. I don't know if it's just because, like, we're getting them all much closer together in the story or what, but I don't know. But yeah, getting there. I did like was it the second most powerful man of the state is one of the people they're conspiring with.
Yeah.
Royal.
Yeah.
Like he seemed pretty cool. Most of the people that we met at this meeting, I was like, all right, you all seem pretty good, except for Royal's, rival, who has to just be contrary to him. Like he annoyed me, smug prick.
His frenemy or whatever.
Yeah. Like really? You're just going to keep going on about this? Okay, whatever. But yeah, on the whole, it's like, I've just got to see where these goes. Like Joe, I think the trial is the biggest thing to come out of Sarene's chapter. I'm just like, these guys were all dancing around that. And she acknowledged that. She's just like, yeah, you've all just like told me what it is without actually telling me a damn thing. So that's gonna be pretty rough whenever that comes. But yeah, we'll see how this goes. It's a lot of scene setting.
Right. Another thing I forgot to mention is, like, oh god, there's more balls in this one. Didn't we get enough balls in the fucking Mistborn series? Like, we're gonna go to more
that
parties.
kind of ball. Sorry, in my head, I was thinking about like the seance,
testicles,
other balls of light.
No,
and I was like, we didn't get any new seance. What are you talking about?
Balls, yeah, like parties and shit. It's just like,
elders speak of a ball like you. He bounced 3 meters in the air.
Then he bounced 4 meters in the air. Then he bounced 8 meters in the air.
No,
My
it's weirder
people
than that.
tell the same story.
It's like he bounced like high and then low or something. I forget what the elders tell of a young ball, much like he bounced 3 meters in the air. Then he bounced 1.8 meters in the air. Then he bounced 4 meters in the air. Do I make myself clear?
Say what?
My people tell the same story. Oh, Henry Kissinger.
Yeah, okay. So I agree that aside from the names just being unusual, because we talked about Elantris and him doing like just going all in on the weird fantasy names, we're kind of still in the parts of the book where it's like we're introducing a bunch of new people in this one chapter. Like we met like 5 new people at that party who are theoretically super important and that you need to remember all of. And it's just like, oh, geez, you're just throwing away a whole lot of these at me at one time, dude.
Yeah. I mean, I thought I was doing well. It's like, oh, Royal. They mentioned him before. I've heard that one before. The others, I'm just like, all right, who the fuck are you guys?
But yeah, see, you remembered that Royal was, it was Royal and Tellery that they talked about last time as the 2 like, next in line for king, basically.
Which, I mean, bodes well if the next in line is one of their allies.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess let's get into these chapters. So we start out Raoden's chapter with Galadon being like, I don't think this is a good idea, dude. And Raoden's like, shh, shut up. And so now the other gangs, after what he did recruiting Marishi, the guy, the jewel maker from last time, they're like expecting some trouble. Like, this guy's trying to start a new gang, and we're not going to let this pass.
And straight off the mark, I'm just like, the other gangs have heard. Like, is there a gossip chain among the zombies?
Well, no, but they're all like, they all have people there watching because depending on which way the person turns, a different gang gets them. So they all have to have somebody there at all times.
To watch out. So obviously everybody saw him make a fool of Sheor's men, so.
And run off with the prize.
I think Galadon talks about it in this chapter as well. He's like, yeah, no, I do. There is sort of like an underground informant network or something. Like there are people who talk to each other in Elantris. It's not just like you're either part of the gang or you're on your own. Like there are people who talk to each other and spread news.
Galadon's just like, what? I'm a friendly dude. I talk to people. What do you want?
Yeah, if I hadn't talked to you, I'd still be sitting comfortably on a staircase.
I wouldn't be wearing my books on my feet.
But Galadon's just like, dude, what are we gonna do? Like, they're gonna be waiting for us. And Raoden's like, oh yeah, they're definitely gonna be waiting for us. And Galadon's like, I'm not really so bored with death that I want to give up what I have in favor of an existence of pure pain. And Raoden's like, dude, you someday. You gotta stop being so pessimistic. And Galadon is offended by this. Like, pessimism? Me? Duelists are the most lighthearted, easygoing people in Opalon. We look at each day with, Zule, don't you dare leave when I'm defending myself.
Just making with the comedy, that Galadon.
Agree with me when I'm talking to you.
And today, 3 new people get shoved into Elantris all at once. And Raoden's like, oh, we cannot miss this opportunity. This is exactly, like, this is perfect. And this is one of those things where it's like a reasonable person would have already explained the plan to Galadon, but for dramatic purposes and so that it can be funny for us, Raoden's like refused to tell him anything until we're right at the point where the plan is happening. And so he's like, Galadon's like, oh, what are you going to do? It's like, nothing. You, however, are going to have a nice stroll out into the courtyard. Really, a nice guy would have been like, okay, I'll go stroll into the courtyard and you get those people out of there. But Raoden's like, oh no, you're going to go and everyone's going to chase you.
Yeah. I mean, Galadon's not as charismatic as Raoden is. He can't be like, did you see where that man went? Let's go. Get him.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, Galadon gets out there. Everyone sees him. They chase him. And Raoden runs up to the newcomers. He's like, hey, where'd that guy go? And they're like, what the fuck are you talking about? The guy who just came by here, he has the cure. Come on, we got to go. And so that's how he gets them to follow him out this time instead of trying to argue these 3 people. Like, no, you got to come with me or they're going to beat you up. It's like, no, I'll trick you. And then we just cut to, hey, he was successful and he's interviewing his new recruits. He's got a housewife.
And her name is Mare with an extra A. I'm like, hang on a minute.
Yeah, it is. I didn't even make that connection because I'm trying to think in like Elantris speak where it's probably like Mary.
Mary. Yeah,
I bet it's Mary.
Yeah. It's a fucked up way to spell Mary.
But yeah, that's a good point.
The new, like, you know, the weird spellings people make of their names when they give them to children these days.
Yep. Maybe Brandon just likes the name Mare. It's gonna pop up all over the place. It's like in the Dresden Files when Jim Butcher's named like 3 different characters Margaret.
Well, there's at least a familial connection there.
With 2 of them, yeah. It's like, I don't have any special skills. And he's like, well, if you're like most of the housewives that I know, you probably can do everything, basically. And the next guy is a workman. He built things on a plantation. And Raoden's like, oh, hey, that's going to be useful. Okay. And last dude, he's like, wait a second. I want to know why I should even listen to anything you say. This is the only guy with any brains in this whole crowd. He's like, I may be a Lantrian, but that doesn't mean, like, I may be dead now or whatever, but I'm just going to walk in here and do whatever you tell me to immediately. Who the hell are you? And instead of trying to explain it, Raoden's like, okay, well, here, Marishi will explain to you. And apparently our artist friend has a very, very dramatic way of telling stories. So he regales the newcomers with his harrowing escape where Raoden saved his life from certain death or whatever.
Was, being chased by 2 men with a flamethrower claiming I was a possum. And then all of a sudden... This man, he saved me. He is the spirit.
You should have heard those 2 men complaining when I was saved.
They're really irritated, and the older one just kept yelling at the younger one like it was his fault.
Yeah.
But it turns out that this guy is a soldier of Count Eondel, who we meet in the next chapter. Or was. I guess he's dead now, so... And Raoden makes the point again. It's like, we don't really have many good soldiers. So if you're one of this guy's soldiers, that makes you pretty much top shelf as far as this country is concerned. And we find out that Eondel amassed his personal fortune by hiring out his private army to the crown. So that's why he's so rich, is that the kingdom has to keep paying him for their security. And the dude's like, oh, well, if you like Eondel, then you must be a good dude. I pledge my sword to you. And he's like, well, you don't really have a sword right now, but... appreciate it. And apparently Raoden's picked out a building, like a nice sized building for his the group he has planned to put together, but it doesn't have a roof anymore. And so he's like, Mary and Rill, whatever. It's like, I want you guys to build us a roof. It's going to be awesome. The problem is that all of the wood in Elantris is either broken or rotten. So that's an issue. And he's like, also, Marishi, go ahead and explain about being an Elantrian to these guys so that they don't actually hurt themselves and regret it for the rest of their unlife. That's when Galadon shows up, and he's not super happy with Raoden. But his first thing, he's like, Sule, my Hama would love you. She always complained I didn't exercise enough. And Raoden's like, oh, good, you're back. I was starting to worry. And he's like, yeah, like you worried when you shoved me out into that courtyard. Seen worms on hooks treated more kindly, Kolo. Oh, man. And Raoden doesn't even apologize. He's like, but you made such fantastic bait. And it worked.
He's really banking on the I'm just so charming, you can't possibly stay angry at me.
Yeah, I'm the best. Don't do, everything's cool. Look, it worked out, didn't it? You're here.
You're here, we got 3 more dudes, we're good.
And it's like, they didn't come up with any sort of plan for how to keep Galadon safe from these guys. He's just like, okay, good luck, run. Fortunately, Galadon was thinking on his feet here. He's like, I went into a building with a collapsed staircase, threw some rocks on the roof, so they thought we were up there just like the first time, and they're probably still waiting out there for us to come down. And Galadon's like, so you're just gonna tell everyone that they're like the most important job of all, like you told these people over here? Like, I know you just made all of them feel like they're super vital, like Marishi. I know shoes are good, but it's not really a life and death thing. And he's like, well, people do a better job when they think that what they're doing is important. And Galadon's like, you really are trying to start your own gang, aren't you? He's like, no, that's just like the smallest part of this. The city needs a sense of purpose. He's like, but we're dead. What purpose can we have? It's like, see, that's the problem. Everyone's convinced that their life is over just because their heart stopped beating.
Yep, this town needs an enema.
This town needs a better class of gang leader, and I'm going to give it to him. And so, yeah, he's just like, we're going to, people on the outside can lose hope, too. That's not an Elantrian thing. We just need to give them back something to, like, look towards, to hope for. And Galen's like, the other gangs are going to get tired of this real quick. I don't know how you think that you're going to succeed here. And then they have a discussion about the building, and Galadon is pretty certain that it's a Karathi church. And Raoden's like, really? And he's like, yeah, it just has that feel to it. And he's like, the Elantrians, they didn't really care that much about people worshiping them, so they were fine with other people building temples here. They're supposed to be like a super giant Karathi church here, built as a sign of friendship to the people of Teod. And he's like, how do you know so much about what Elantris? And he's like, what? Since when is knowing stuff a sin? Maybe you should be asking yourself why you don't know all this stuff.
Yeah, you're talking to me like I'm some asshole for knowing stuff. You're the asshole.
He's like, you live right here. How do you not know these things?
Stop persecuting the educated, man.
It's so true.
Read a thick book, you dork.
Exactly. We're pro thick books on the Sanderlanche. That's our official stance.
You live right next door and you didn't know a damn thing about your neighbors? What the fuck's wrong with you?
He didn't even know that they never fed them. So he really was out of touch.
It's like, Mr. I'm going to improve the kingdom. And then it's like, oh, yeah, okay. Whatever. There's this wall over there and my knowledge just stops beyond it.
Yeah, cool. Knowledge, whatever.
But I like that Raoden doesn't even give this dude a break. He's like, anyway, come on, there's something I want to do. Galen's like, it doesn't involve running, right? Well, only if they spot us.
So he has. Can you take Marishi this time?
Oh, because Marishi hasn't been here. He doesn't know where to find Andon and point him out.
Mm.
So yeah, he has Galadon take him to Andon and show him this guy who was supposedly a noble before he claims to have been a baron out in the outside world.
Yeah, you glazed over the best part. The dude has a fake mustache. Where the hell did he get a fake mustache? He stopped by the Elantrian costume shop.
Yeah, okay, that's a good point. A long drooping mustache that was obviously fake.
The hair of children, I'm telling you.
Maybe his hair fell out and he just like glued it on there.
Ew. Because that's so much worse than the children's hair.
But yeah, he's like, it says he has a sizable paunch. He's short, fat, with a big ass fake mustache, and he's sitting on a throne of gold, dealing out like kingly justice or whatever. And Raoden's
king's got a king.
Raoden's like, so he wasn't a baron. That was a lie, but I do know him. He was one of like the finest sculptors in the city. And like he points out, he's like, he wasn't of noble blood, but until like 10 years ago, we didn't really have nobles. So none of us is really super noble. Right.
So the Bachelor of Fine Arts is the Mad King.
Yeah. And he's like, Raoden's like, so he's crazy? Because it says he's blubbering incoherently to his court of rejects. And Galadon's like, we each have to deal with death in our own way. The rumors say that his insanity was a decision. He walked in and was like, well, there's no way I can face this shit and stay sane, so I'm going to go mad. Galadon's like, so he wasn't a baron? Like, no, he was a sculptor. And he's like, so you knew the guy? He's like, well, I met him once. So where do you hear all these rumors anyway? So this is where we get like y'all were talking about at the beginning, where Galadon's just like, I hear things. I talk to people.
He goes to the zombie pub, chats with the zombie bartender.
Exactly. But this is also where Galadon's like, so wait a second. How could you have known you would recognize him? You couldn't have known like that he was going to be this guy that you'd met before. And Ron's like, well, no, but if he'd been a baron, I would have known him. And he's not really trying hard enough to hide if he's really trying to hide himself. So he's like, wait. Galadon starts putting it together. He's like, so Spirit is Aeon Rao. And Ron's like, yeah. And didn't the king of Arelon doesn't he have a son named Raoden? He did. And here you are claiming that you know all the barons. You're educated. You give commands easily. Yeah, you could say that. Raoden's like, yeah, okay, I should have given myself a different name, huh? He's like, you're telling me that you're the crown prince of Arelon. Well, I was the crown prince. I lost the title when I died. Kind of sucks. What are you going to do, right? Oh, but speaking of Aeons, that they have these 3-letter names. It didn't come up when we were talking about it last time, but we established that you guys were thinking, these strangers from Mistborn Secret History were Elantrians, and their organization's name that they call themselves is the IRE, I-R-E, which is an Aeon. So,
what was the creepy chick's name?
Oh, what was her name actually? That's a good question.
It's like Alono or Alano or
yeah, Alono. That's right. Or Alonoe, because I think it's Alonoe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And there's another one she's talking to whose name is Elrau.
So yeah, he has Rayo in his name like Raoden does.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Interesting. Okay.
So yeah, I mean, I wonder. I want to look up which Aeon her name is based on, since they all seem to be based on Aeons. But anyway, no need to get down that trail, I guess. I like Galadon's just like, it's no wonder you're so frustrating. I spent my whole life trying to avoid royalty, and I end up with you. Like, oh, shut up. I mean, we've only been royalty for like 10 years. It's not really that big a deal. And Galadon's like, it's long enough. Grumble, grumble. Prince ordered me around. This is way worse than when it's just some dude who bribed me.
I didn't swear allegiance to no royal house, damn it.
Yeah, pretty much. And he's just like, if it helps, my father didn't really think I was fit to be king. And Galadon's like, dude, I would be scared to see the guy that Iadon did think was fit. That dude's an idiot. No offense. It's like, yeah, none taken. I agree, basically. But he's like, keep my identity secret, okay? Can we do that? And Galadon's like, I guess, man.
My dad's the worst, right?
And Raoden's like, well, now that you know who I am, you have to tell me who you are. It's, fair is fair, right? And Galadon's like, okay, well, I was a farmer. And Raoden's like, a farmer. That's it. Well, an orchard keeper, actually. I sold my fields and bought an apple farm because I thought that would be easier because you don't have to replant the trees I just like how he's like, I was a lazy farmer, so I bought an orchard instead.
It was just great move.
Yeah. He's like, I like to read and shit, so better to just have an apple farm. Just take care of the trees, read, hang out, make love.
I had these 2 guys hunting birds for me.
Yeah.
But Raoden doesn't buy it. He's like, you seem like too. He says intelligent at first, and then Galadon's like, dude, do you know how many like super smart farmers I've known? That's some shit right there. Where you high and mighty types are like, oh, farmers are all dumb. He's like, okay, well, no, but you are clearly like educated. It's not just intelligent; it's educated. And he's like, well, whatever, books. I love books, dude. A wise farmer has time to study.
I like how Galadon's just like, well, ain't that some shit? I gotta be stupid because I'm a farmer.
That's a hateful stereotype.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then here's where the question comes about where are the children? And he's like, children? Well, I mean, the Shroud strikes randomly. Children also, right? And he's like, I've seen babes barely old enough to walk get thrown through those gates. Which ain't that some shit? I can't even imagine you're a parent and your child like gets turned into this thing and you're like, okay, take him.
Yeah, take my toddler. Just throw him in there. It's fine.
Anyway, he's like, Elantris is a harsh place, man. Children don't last long here. And that's where they run into a Seon, and Raoden realizes who it is. And it really is like such a sad moment here, because it like comes up and kind of he holds out his hand and it kind of floats over and just like bats against him a little bit, and then it's just floating around randomly. Other than that, and he can even see that the Aeon at the center of the Seon looks like weak. He says it glows unevenly. So whatever happened to Raoden, something equally messed up has happened to his Seon, and it hits him a little bit because it's like this is a friend that he's known forever.
It's like Bit in Tron after Clue was killed.
I never felt that bad for any of the things in Tron. Those are the programs, I guess. The whole concept where the programs were people just never gelled with me that well.
That's fair. I loved it, but I'm just like, yeah, I can understand why it's an acquired taste. I love both those movies.
I like them okay.
The original's good. I like the original, but the new one I had some issues with. I was just kind of like,
Oh, like it's definitely far from flawless, but I don't think it's as bad as most people say it is.
No, I'll agree with that. I like a lot of stuff about the second one. I mean, just the special effects being so much better, and that they got Daft Punk to do the music. Just those two things alone get you a long way.
Right.
It's like any movie with Jeff Bridges cannot be an objectively bad movie.
Jeff Bridges is good.
I don't know. That's a big leap to make. Have you ever seen the movie Stick It?
I have not seen that. No.
Yeah, don't see it.
Okay.
Now I gotta find out if there's a Jeff Bridges movie that I don't like. Oh, that's right. He is in Kingsman: The Golden Circle. That's not a bad movie. He's in R.I.P.D., which is a ridiculous movie.
Oh,
I'm not a big fan of the 70s Kong movie.
He wasn't in that.
Yeah, he was.
Okay, hold on. We're looking at the 70s.
In Kong Skull Island.
Oh, he's in King Kong from 1976. Sure enough.
Oh,
I know what I'm talking about. Come on, Dad.
I thought you meant Kong Skull Island.
Think he can out movie me?
He's in The Last Unicorn. That was the movie that he did right after Tron, apparently.
I've never even heard of that.
I want to see that, actually. I've heard that's really good.
I've read the book. I haven't seen the movie. A movie called Texasville. He's been in a lot of stuff. Like through the 90s, it's like there's not a year where he did just one movie. There's always multiple.
Well, as long as we're talking fantasy casting, let's do Jeff Bridges as Keen.
I can see that, yeah.
Yeah.
He might be a little old now. I don't know how old Keen is exactly, but I could totally see it.
Well, he's old enough to have adult children, so.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, no, that's not his kid, is it? That's her kid.
That's true. Lucal is his stepson. Yeah, that's right.
Oh, I forgot because they have such a good family dynamic. But like,
right.
You could, like, that's not to say you can't have a good family dynamic with step families. I've got one with my step family, so disregard. Moving on.
Anyway,
Jeff Bridges is in a lot of stuff. He's in the movie Surf's Up.
That can't be good.
Yeah,
yeah, that one.
Does anybody want to rescind their Jeff Bridges not in bad movies yet?
I never saw K-Pax, but
I'm gonna say like it was a bad movie, but he was good in it. So
I was about to say he doesn't make the movie bad. That's true. But yeah. Surf's Up.
Raoden has his line. He's like, Ian used to be so wise. I never knew a creature, Seon or man, more thoughtful. And Galen's like, oh man, I'm sorry, dude. I didn't realize. And it says that he's had him since he was a young boy who hadn't yet learned that Seons were more valuable as friends than as servants. And he's like, oh man, I thought the shout had been harsh on me, old friend. Because the Seon just kind of loses interest and floats away. See, I don't even care if you zombies recover. I want to see the Seons get better because this is sad.
Yeah, that was heartbreaking. Like, I don't even know this ball of light, but I feel bad for him.
Right? I guess the only one we've really met is like Ash or Aish, however you want to say his name.
Yeah. Well, and we know that her dad was using one to talk to her, but we didn't.
Right. Yeah, we just haven't
that one.
Yeah, we haven't got any personality from any others.
Yeah, that's how you know the emotional impact is there, right? It's like we're sad about a guy that we never even met, but we know what he meant to this guy, and so we're like, oh man, that's. You know, it's like Shakespeare with Hamlet. It's like, last poor Yorick, I knew him. It's like, we don't know who the fuck Yorick is. We never met that guy. But Hamlet did. Good old Hamlet.
Yes, but that's the end of that chapter. We leave on sad Raoden, and we move over to Sarene's chapter, where 5 men have shown up in response to Keen's request. And Lukel's kind of pissed off. He's like, Raoden had like 30 people here. I feel like for Keen, that should be a good thing, because if Keen was having to cook for everyone, 5's going to be way better than 30.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's like
they're all
cooking a
complaining how long he was taking just to cook for 5 of them. If he was cooking with 30, then they'd be there like for a few days.
Right?
Yeah.
I guess it depends on how big like a pit he has for cooking. He's like roasting a pig. Maybe he's got one big enough you can like skewer a few more pigs on there and roast them at the same time.
Yeah, and it really works in Serene's favor too, because it's like she can win over 5 guys, but like to win over 30 people, that would be kind of difficult. I feel like.
Yeah, you can't just go 1-on-1 with 30 of them.
For the most part,
Take a number.
Yeah.
For the most part, she's kind of engaging with only Royal when we get to it, because I guess he's like the most powerful one, so he kind of takes the lead. Well, and we find out more about that later on in the chapter, but
So
right now she hasn't even appeared to them yet.
They're talking about the meal, and it's like they call it the roast ketathum, and I misread that as ketamine and went, wait, what?
Yeah, I have
why
no
everyone
idea
loves
what
his
that
cooking.
is.
He's spiking it.
I gotta look up if ketathum is a thing or if it's something specific in here. According to the wiki, ketathum is a roasted Hragish dish made with pork. That is a nation that's under the control of the Fjordal Empire.
So it only exists in this book.
Yep.
Okay, well, I know that for A Song of Ice and Fire and Lord of the Rings, they have released cookbooks based on the recipes in those books. Will Sanderson ever come out with Meals of the Cosmere cookbook?
It's funny because there was a Reddit topic not long ago where I suggested the same thing. I was like, we need like a Cosmere cookbook. This would be awesome.
I mean, probably don't need anything from Mistborn Era 1 because it really just seems like everything, like it's just, ash flavored mush.
Yeah. Did they have any like? Is there food that you remember out of that book or those books rather?
And didn't she eat like leafy cabbage, like lined?
Oh yeah,
yeah.
they had like the wraps that she
Yeah.
had when she first showed up. Yeah. Okay.
Right. It was like a cabbage wrap, and then I assume they eat like meat.
Yeah,
Not
she had
meat.
like a wrap filled with grain or something. 'Cause she like scraped the grain out and ate it and kept the bread for later or whatever. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the thing.
Cabbage and quinoa. There you go.
Yeah.
I don't know that I want that wrap. I prefer to have some meat in mine personally, but
Yeah. Of the things that you would eat, that's not like you're not rushing out to get the cookbook for that thing, right? So what I would want is that thing, but inside is like pork and cheese or something.
Sure. So you're talking like a pulled pork taco. Got it.
Yeah, more like I would want like some flour in there too, like a Salvadorian pupusa. Those things are good.
Oh, okay. I got you. So, okay. We start to meet the guys, and Sarene hasn't actually come out yet, but Keen's like in the back, like, she see that guy so-and-so and that guy so-and-so. So the first one we get is Eondel, who's a stately man, graying lines of silver hair and a sharp martial uniform. This is the guy that we just heard about, who is rich because he rents out his army to the kingdom. He's like, yeah, he's the only guy I've ever seen other than Raoden who could stand up and oppose the king and actually get away with it, because he has his own personal army and the king ain't got shit, so he can't really say shit. Next to him is Baron Shuden, who's from Jindo, or his family's from Jindo, but they lived in Arelon for about 100 years, and they basically run the trade routes between this other country and Arelon, so they make their money off of that. And then next to him is Duke Royal, who we heard mention of before. He's like the second richest dude in the kingdom. And Keen says he's probably the wisest as well, but he's been loath to take action against the king because they've been friends since before the Riyadh, whatever. And she's like, well, so if he's friends with the king, why is he here? He's like, well, he's a good man, and even though they're friends, he understands that Iadon's rule has been horrible for the nations. So, also maybe because he's bored. And she's like, wait, he engages in treasonous conferences because he's bored? He's an old dude. When you've been around that long, you gotta find some interesting stuff to keep you interested.
Yeah.
Politics is so ingrained in the Duke that he probably can't sleep at night unless he's involved in at least 5 different wild schemes. And he's so fabulously wealthy because the area that he's over includes like the other port city that we heard about. There was a thing before about how K is like the nicest port city that's left, and that's why it was the capital after Elantris fell. But this guy runs the other port city, and he's so rich that the only way Iadon can stay richer than him is by declaring national taxes revenues into his own personal earnings. I also like that it notes that he's an older guy and he's boisterous and mischievous, but also homely and spindly and diminutive. So he's like a thin, not attractive guy, but he sounds fun to me. He's like this old dude who's boisterous and mischievous and stuff.
I see like old, homely, spindly. I'm just like, have we got a much more pleasant Mr. Burns here?
Excellent.
See, when you describe someone as old and like and thin and stuff, I think I'm going for like a Ben Kingsley, maybe.
That could work. Although in fairness, Ben Kingsley could be an amazing live action Mr. Burns.
Also true. I could totally see that. They don't need to make a live action Simpsons. There's no reason for that.
No, they absolutely do not.
No, that would be terrible.
In fact, I'm gonna say please don't.
No, let's not do that. That's
Yeah.
There's
Let's not
nothing
put that
good.
out into the world as something that needs to be happening.
And so she's like, okay, so who's next to Duke Royal? And he's like, oh, the portly guy. And she's like, portly, really? This guy's so fat, he's like over the sides of his chair. And he's like, that's how we fat guys describe one another, okay?
Yeah, don't judge.
And
She's
she's
real
like,
judgy, this Sarene.
but Uncle, you're not fat, you're robust. So this robust gentleman is Count Ahan. And he's like, you wouldn't know it by watching, but he and the Duke are either really good friends or very old enemies. I'm not sure which one. And so they're always trying to get one up on each other. And he regales her with the story of how Raoden convinced them each separately, and they both showed up to the first meeting thinking they were like getting one over on the other, and then were shocked to find out that they were both on the same side. But they keep coming because they both seem to agree, and they like hanging out with each other. Either that or they just want to keep an eye on each other. So whichever way, it helps us. So, and the last guy at the table is a nervous, fidgety, balding fellow, Edon, Baron of Tie Plantation.
AKA Wormtail. AKA dude who's going to betray them for sure.
Really? You think so?
Yeah, he's just got that quality about him.
He's just nervous because he's about to lose his title at the next tax period.
Fucking bullshit.
But it's like Keen is elucidating how like, oh, of all the, I don't trust this guy, but of all the people here, he's probably the one who wants us to succeed the most.
Well,
because
he's
if we
also,
don't overthrow the king, then he's screwed.
He's also probably the one the most desperate to cut a deal, though, too, with the king.
And also, like, because he does have a similar name to the guy who was at Hrathen's meeting, like Idan.
Oh yeah.
So if they're related, you know, it could be like they're trying to play both, like the two sides that are both opposing the king and hoping one of them works out.
Oh, it's true. Any of these guys could be doing that though.
That's true, but it's like the similar names just jumped out at me.
But this guy's in trouble financially because first off, he made some rough investments that didn't work out. But also his lands border the chasm, capital C. That's the giant like pit or whatever that opened up when the earthquake happened, when Elantris fell. So it's not a very fertile area right next to the big cliff or whatever. So
yeah, I went back to the map to look it up and to look up Royal's Port, Iald. And it's like, all right, yeah, just like trying to find all these places, and you can see like the different all the names, like the 3-letter things. And then smack bang in the middle of the country, there's a Lake Alano. I'm just like, wait a minute, that was the evil chick from Secret History.
Yep.
Also, there appear to be 2 Aeon regions, one in the very northwest and one in the very south. Oh, so one northeast, one southwest.
Yeah, you sure are right. I just noticed that same thing. That's funny. I wonder if the same guy runs them both, and that's why they're named that.
Maybe.
But yeah, because Iadon's rules are basically, if you're rich, you're noble. If you ain't, you ain't. So he's going to lose his title at the next tax assessment unless something changes.
Yeah, man. Could the political drama get no fiercer than audit time?
Well, that's what happens when you have a merchant king.
Yeah, I know.
That's all he
People
cares
get
about.
audited and shit. They want the money. $1 bill, y'all.
It's good to know that even in fantasy realms, everyone hates the tax man.
Oh, yeah.
It's true.
It's just like in there's the one bit in like Name of the Wind where it's like, yeah, if the last tax man hadn't come, like, this is a nice town, but if the last tax guy hadn't come through with like 12 guards, he probably would have ended up buried out behind somebody's barn.
Yeah.
So Keen's like, do you really want to try to get involved in this meeting? Because this isn't TO'd here. Like, they don't Arelons don't like have their women involved in politics. They don't feel that's proper. And there's an interesting bit in the annotations for this chapter where Brandon's like, I don't want to turn this into like a political statement about female empowerment. I think that's kind of overdone in fantasy. But there's no getting around the fact that Sarene is a strong female character, and it would be unrealistic not to address some of the issues it creates with the men around her. However, I do have to point out that some of the reactions Sarene gets aren't because she's female. They're just because she's bullheaded. She tends to put too much stock in the fact that she's a woman, assuming that the resistance she gets is based only on that. But I think a man with her personality would have encountered many of the same problems. The way she pushes Royal into a corner in this chapter is a good example.
Yes,
Yeah.
we call that the Cersei Lannister principle.
Yeah, and I think honestly she's kind of aware of that, maybe not to the extent that she doesn't until they have the conversation later, but you can tell like she's trying to monitor herself because she knows that about herself, that she pushes too hard and that she can be kind of disrespectful to people at times.
Yeah, I believe that. Given the way that like her dad talked to her about like, please don't overthrow anything. It's like she knows. And so she's like, no, I'm going to do this and it's going to be interesting. It's like Royal's not the only one here who likes the challenge. So she just comes out and they're like, and Keen's like, oh yeah, you've all met my niece, right? And Royal's like, your niece? What, you have connections to the throne of Teod? And Ahan is like, don't tell me that like your spies didn't tell you that he's the king's brother. It's like, yeah, I was being polite, Ahan. It's bad form to spoil a man's surprise just because your spies are efficient. I like the way these two are just immediately snapping and one-upping each other. I like their relationship.
Yeah, it's kind of reminiscent of Bree's Ham.
Yeah, I can see that. And Ahan is like, well, okay, but it's also bad form to bring like an outsider to a meeting like this. And Serene's just like, well, I would think that you'd welcome some more people since you used to be like 30 and now you're 5. And Royal's like, I knew it. I knew no one could be as stupid as you were pretending to be. And they get into a thing about like whether she should be allowed here, basically. And she's like, look, in Teod, we don't shelter our women behind a curtain of weaving and embroidering. I've spent years as a diplomat. I'm not inexperienced in this area. And Royal's like, well, yeah, but you're not really familiar with the situation in Arelon. So, and then Edon, who I think we've already decided we don't like, jumps in and he's like, I'm not going to risk my safety just because you want to assert your liberated nature. So yeah, that doesn't help make him seem nicer. That's for sure. And then Shuden jumps in, the Jindo, a young Jindo nobleman, it says, and he's like, look, is girl really what you should be calling her? I mean, fine, let her in, don't let her in, but you shouldn't disrespect her title because it's exactly as solid as our titles. So if we ignore one, then we ignore the others. So she's got someone, I don't know if he's quite on her side, but he's polite, I guess. And she kind of, it really is Royal that she's having talk around. He's the one that keeps shooting back like reasons that she shouldn't be here. And she's like, you lost the prince. I can't offer as much protection as him, but maybe some. And he's like, yeah, okay, but that's not much. And she's like, yeah, but not much is better than nothing, right? So, and then she kind of goes off on Raoden some, and it's like, look, you all like this guy, respected, loved him, and I, who should have loved him best, will never get to meet him, so I want to be involved in his work. Which I don't know how sincere any of that was. And she says Royal watched her for a second, and she knew he was measuring her sincerity because he was not a man to be fooled by mock sentiment. I don't know if the result is that she's just good at fooling him or if she was being serious there.
Yeah, it's sort of hard to tell.
Yeah, I want to say that she was being serious because ever since she's gotten there, she hasn't wanted to admit it to herself as much. We've seen her do it a couple of times. But she obviously loved this guy, even though she never got to meet him face to face. Like and then everything that she's heard about him since she got there has just made her feel even worse because she's like, all of these things that I thought about him, like it sounds like they were true. It sounds like he was really a nice man, like a good man. People loved him and admired him. And so, yeah, like if he was for this, then this is obviously something that I should be involved in as well.
Yeah, okay, I buy that. But whichever way it was, the Duke Royal's like, okay, fine, I don't have a problem with her staying. And Shuden's like, yeah, I'm good. And apparently the speech affected Eondel a lot because it says he was nearly in tears, and he's like, I give my assent to the lady. And so Edon is, then we get Ahan, who's like, well, if Royal says yes, and I have to say no, just out of principle, but it looks like I'm outvoted happily, wink. I get tired of looking at the same old crusty faces anyway. So now Edon is the only one left to be like, oh, I vote no, but I guess it's too late for that.
No one cares what you think.
Apparently. And so then, they sit down, they eat. Everyone's like, Keen, that's such awesome food. You're great. We spend a long time talking about how good the food is, and Keen's like, oh, no, it's nothing, guys, really. I keep the praise coming. No, good, yeah. Stop, please, but don't stop.
The pork is so good. The yumminess, it was so roasted to perfection. Thank you, Master Keen. You're the best. I want to have your babies, Master Keen. You're amazing.
That's when the trial comes up, because they're like, oh, Keen, yeah, you're just a simple cook, right? Who's the brother of a king, and whose niece is the daughter of 2 kings, and whose wife is a ranked noblewoman in our own court. He's like, I can't help being related to important people. Merciful Domi gives us each different trials. And they're like, speaking of trials, what are you going to do for your trial? And she's like, say what? So you're. And
really, I feel like this was an asshole move on her family's part. It's like, you guys couldn't tell her about this? Like,
Yeah.
Right?
I know you didn't want her to go through it sounds like, but come on, she looks like an asshole just being like, what are you talking about?
And also, Iodon is going to force her to do whatever this is, if nothing else, to try and get rid of her.
Maybe, yeah. But it's just, apparently when an Arelon noblewoman is widowed, they're expected to perform a trial. And she's like, so, like what? And she's thinking she doesn't like to have duty. She doesn't like to have stuff that she's supposed to do that she's not doing. That bothers her. And they're like, oh, no, it's fine. I mean, no one really expects you to take much interest in it. It's just a stupid old tradition anyway. And I like, who is it who said, Ahan is like, I don't like the custom. I don't think that we should encourage the people to look forward to our deaths. It doesn't bode well for an aristocrat's popularity to be at its greatest just after he dies. So it sounds like whatever it is, it's going to be something the people will like. What do the common people love better than a gladiator show, right? So that's got to be what it is.
Death by softball.
So because it sounds like all the aristocrats are men. So basically you're saying every widow woman has to go into a gladiator arena and fight. That's just kind of messed up.
How it is.
You lost your husband? Oh, well, go battle the Rancor.
Yeah. We got this giant pit of lions. Go in there.
But she's just like, I can't believe nobody told me about this shit. And maybe somebody would have if you didn't spend all your time in the palace or Keen's house, if you actually went out and met some people. And apparently,
shit.
There's been 2 balls since she arrived, and another one happening tonight while they're at this dinner, and no one told her. And they're like, oh yeah, well, men are the ones who get the invitations, and then we bring our sisters or wives or whatever.
You think her mother-in-law would have mentioned that shit? All she talks about is stupid stuff anyway.
She just talks so much. Who knows?
Yeah, she's probably tuning it all out by now.
Right?
Oh, that's what that white noise was.
Oh, yeah. My mother-in-law did say something about that. I just didn't care.
She was banging on about how yellow the flowers were, the bees were, the lions were. I stopped caring.
I mean, to be fair, Sarene did try to defend her mother-in-law earlier in this chapter when they're like, yeah, even the queen's not that dumb. And she's like, look, she's not dumb. She's just enthusiastic. Yeah. So Serene's being nice about her new mom. So, I kind of like that, actually. That she clearly doesn't like her much in the one scene that we saw them together, but she's still not mean.
I think she takes pity on her because she is married to the biggest dickhead of the kingdom.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. That's enough to make anyone pity.
Yeah.
But in the end, they decide, hey, she's like, why don't you guys take me to some of these parties, since it wouldn't really be appropriate for me to start dating some guy and going to parties when I haven't even been a widow a week. And they decide, they're like, oh yeah, no, that makes sense. She can start maneuvering the court at these parties, and as long as she doesn't go with any one of them too often, then it won't look weird or suspect. Conversation turns to other topics such as the upcoming lunar eclipse. Random. And meanwhile, Lord Edon is the one sitting in the corner not really enjoying the food. And finally he just blurts out, I thought we weren't going to meet anymore. And Lukel's like, well, no, I mean, we decided not to meet for a while. But we're not just going to give up on the country. And Han's like, dude, you should be happy. You're the one who needs this the most. how long is it before the next taxing period? It's like, I believe it's on the first day of Esotech, Lord Ahan, Eondel said helpfully, which would put it just under 3 months away. Thank you, Eondel. You're such a useful man to have around, always knowing things that are proper and such. Just
I'll get a room.
I love the back and forth with these nobles. It's so fun. But Royal's like, hey, actually, no, he's got a point. I mean, yeah, Sarene says she's going to help us, but we don't have the prince anymore. And he's the one that everyone loved and that everyone was willing to follow. So what do? We don't have these 30 nobles on our side to try to stand against Iadon anymore. And Serene's like, no, you still have a dream. And Ahan's like, dude, the dream was Raoden's. We were just along for the ride. And she starts to point out that it's like, no, here's, you guys want what's good for this country. And the way Iadon does stuff is not. It's like the country cannot last being run like this. And it says, Royal says, a fine observation, princess, his tone dismissive. And he turns to the others and continues talking, ignoring her. And Royal wants to wait. He's like, let's wait and let Iadon run himself into a corner before we do anything. And Lukel's like, but he's going to destroy the country in the process if we wait. And this Eondel jumps in. He's like, well, there is another way. I mean, if you give me 2 weeks, I can gather the Legion from their posts on the nation's highways. Money is not the only power. My men can strike quickly and take the palace and get the king taken hostage.
Yeah, this already doesn't seem like a great plan.
Well, I can understand why they're like, without Raoden, we can't use the political power anymore. So what else do we have? So I could see why it might come to that, but I think everyone else kind of agrees that this is not a great plan.
Yeah. It's like, we just want to consider all the options, even the shit ones.
Shuden is the one who comes out and he's just like, no, we can't do it that way. The new government would be born in blood, just like the old one, just like Iadon's came from the death of Elantris. So you'll just set up the cycle again for another revolution to follow this one. And that's where Sarene jumps in. She's like, oh, there's another way. And Royal's like, yeah, that way is to wait. He's like, no, you shut up and let me talk. We can't wait. I've seen the people of Arelon, and while they still have hope in their eyes, it's growing weak. If you give him time, he will create the despondent peasants he desires. Which is actually kind of the opposite of what she told Lukel earlier, where she's like, you can still see this spark in their eyes. They know what it's like to be free. They're not going to stand for this. And now she's telling Royal, no, if you let it go, then they're going to get beaten down and they won't be able to stand up anymore. And so her suggestion is to let the system overthrow itself. And this is where you guys were mentioning earlier. It's like it seems like she has this idea, this fully formed idea that kind of comes out of nowhere. Although I feel like, to me, because she's like, hey, so what is the biggest problem with the system? And Eondel's like, well, it encourages lords to treat their people brutally. And the noblemen, he threatens to take away their titles so they grow desperate and beat extra effort out of their people. And Shuden's like, yeah, it's unconscionable. It's based on greed and fear rather than loyalty. And she's like, yeah, okay. But have you actually looked at Arelon's production charts over the last 10 years? And she's like, Ahan is like, wait, is that a thing? She's like, well, yeah, I mean, we keep them in Teod, production charts of other countries, which makes sense that you would be tracking that kind of thing. And she's like, would you be surprised to know that Arelon's production has plummeted since Iadon took control? And Ahan's like, no, we've had a decade of misfortune. And she's like, no, that's not what it is. Kings make their own misfortune. The saddest thing about this system is not what it does to the people or the fact that it destroys the morality of the country. The most pitiful thing is that it does those things without actually making you people any richer. We don't have slaves. We don't have this stupid serf-based system. Even the Fjordals don't use that anymore because they figured out that people are more productive when they get something out of it. And so to me, this is it sounds like something she's had in her mind, maybe even since before she came here, because she's like, oh no, we have these charts that we have in Teod where we've seen the production, for your country, take a dip and you're making way less money than you could be making. She knew that before she showed up. So now that she's seen this stuff, she's like, I think this is the reason. And she acts to them like she's certain, this is clearly what caused this to happen. And I don't know if that's true, but that's where her idea comes from to me.
Right. And I know she has to be confident, but that's the part where I'm just like, I mean, you're saying a lot of things, but do you really know that that's what's going on? So that's where I'm just like, okay, well, I'm going to take what you say with a grain of salt here. But I mean, obviously they've got to try something. Her plan is better, obviously, than a military coup. So it's not a bad plan. It's just that it's like, well, you sound really certain of yourself, and I don't know that you've really thought this all the way through.
It's entirely possible that, she spoke to Raoden over the say on phone. Yeah, I feel like conversations with Raoden, maybe he's put her up to this and said, get this information for me, let's have a look. And maybe they were already sort of starting to form some plans, because you have to think Raoden agreed to the marriage.
Mm-hmm.
So he'd have to know there'd be some sort of advantage in it for him. And we've seen him with Galadon. It's like he kind of likes to make plans without telling other people what they are. So he could have been bringing Sarene in for this exact purpose, to bring in this knowledge of those charts and everything, and just didn't tell anyone. And now that he's gone, it's like, Serene's got to basically try and figure it out herself without Raoden's insight.
Yeah, I mean, I like that idea, but at the same time, I don't know that we have a ton of justification for it. So
Yeah, not yet anyway. I mean, something could come out later, but
it's purely like a reach of speculation.
Our idea is to divide the land up, give each peasant a section, and say, you get to keep 10% of whatever your section produces. Tell them that you'll even let them buy their homes and the land that they occupy. And everyone's like, oh, that's different. And Shuden's like, oh, it's going to be risky. Although I don't know how much of Shuden's money even comes from his land, since apparently he gets money off of regulating trade routes. So I don't know how risky it is for him personally. But I guess we'll see. But she's like, look, is it really any riskier than the one other plan you've come up with, which is having the army come in and take the castle or the palace? If my plan doesn't work, then you lose some money. If his plan doesn't work, you lose your heads. And Eondel agrees real quick. And she's like, she feels like she can tell he's the one who suggested this plan, and he's a soldier, but he didn't want to attack people either, if there was a way around it. Edon, on the other hand, is once again the naysayer, where he's like, I can't afford let these lazy ass peasants be out there not getting whipped or whatever to make me my money. I'll lose my title if my potatoes don't get planted and weeded and harvested. And Ahan's like, dude, you're gonna lose your title anyway. And Royal's like, well, I mean, come on, Edon has a point. How do we know the peasants will produce more if we give them so much liberty? And Edon's like, yeah, I've found the Arelene peasantry to be lazy, unproductive lot. And she's like, no, they're not lazy. They're pissed off. Like, they have no reason to want to work hard for you. When 10 years ago, they were all free and could do whatever they wanted. And now you've got them like practically slaves. Would that make you want to work harder? And Royal's like, okay, I mean, you got some good points, but you don't really have any evidence. I mean, you say that these charts say this, but you can't really it's like apples to oranges comparing now to then before the Raoden, because the Elantrians produced food and gave it away for free back then. So you can't like compare production in the same way. She's like, fine, then give me the evidence. Do this thing for a few months and create the proof that you're asking for. He's like, okay, I'll consider it. And she's like, no, you won't consider it. You're going to make a decision, damn it. Don't tell me you don't feel guilty for what you've done to this country. She like puts him on the spot, like spotlight on this old dude.
I did not come here to see my people's fate discussed in a committee.
Now Sarene is Amidala. That's an interesting.
Yeah.
Let my people go.
So it's Raoden and Anakin.
Yeah. Raoden's like, from my perspective, the Jedi are evil.
From my perspective, the non-Elantrians are evil.
Yeah, exactly.
That would make sense, actually. The non-Elantrians are assholes to them, so.
Yeah, it's true.
But Shuden, while Royal is on the spot, Shuden is like, you know what? I'll do it. And the acceptance of this other guy gives Royal the chance to agree without losing face. So he's like, okay, if Lord Shuden says that the plan is smart, then I guess I'll follow with that. And Edon comes aboard as well. He's like, I guess I really don't have a choice, so okay. And then Ahan is the last one. He's like, oh my, what shall I do? And Serene's like, well, Lord Royal agreed only grudgingly, so don't tell me you're going to do the same as him. Ahan's like, what a delightful girl you are. Well, I guess I have to accept wholeheartedly then and say that I always knew she was right all along. Now where's dessert? And then we just cut, it's like from the demand for dessert, we cut straight to like Royal and Keen after everyone else is left, like off in a room by themselves. And Royal's like, she's good, Keen, maybe better than I am. She took control right away from me of this meeting, and I don't even know where I went wrong. And then Sarene comes in and she's like, hey, I'm backing you into a corner. It was a calculated risk. And her just sudden appearance doesn't even faze him. He's like, hey, look, you all but threatened me. That's not really a good way to make an ally of a crotchety old man such as myself. You could have given me a few days and I would have given you my support. She's like, no, look, I knew that you would give me your support, but the others had to see you accept the plan before they'd agree to it. It wouldn't have had the same impact otherwise. And Royal's like, you know what? It's good that we have you. You give us hope again. Raoden was our unity before, and now you have to take his place. Keen or I couldn't do it. Keen has refused nobility too long, and the people still want a title to lead them. And me, they know I helped Iadon start all of this. And Keen's like, hey, look, her plan's actually a really good one. Maybe even better than what Raoden had planned. And they're like, yeah, she would have made him a great wife, huh? Which, this is, once again, a little bit of an insensitive conversation to be having right in front of her, where they're like, yeah, she would have made a great wife and a great queen. Such a shame.
Yeah, it's a real bummer. It's a real bummer fest.
But this does give her the opportunity to be like, hey, have you guys ever wondered about what the hell's up with the prince's death? Because does it not seem suspicious to you? And Royal doesn't want to believe that his friend would, like, kill his own son, but everyone kind of agrees that the whole thing was a little bit suspicious. And I guess if Royal's like the second most powerful guy in the country, this kind of confirms that what happened with Raoden has been kept like completely secret. If Royal is like not only the second most powerful guy, but like Iadon's friend, and even he doesn't know, then nobody knows what happened probably. And so they want to find proof if Iadon really did do something to his own son. But Sarene's the only one with free access to the palace, so she's gonna have to poke around. And Royal's like, is it possible maybe he's not dead? And she's like, yeah, I mean, maybe, but usually when a monarch decides to destroy a rival, he makes sure to do it in a permanent way. And she agrees to send Ash down to look through the dungeons to see if maybe the prince is being held down there somehow. Then they get into talking about the Gjorn, what's up with Hrathen, why he's here. And she feels he's more dangerous than anyone else is giving him credit for.
I will say he's very... What's the word I'm looking for? Not persuasive so much, but he's got like one of those auras that, not auras maybe, but demeanors that just like draws you to him. I almost feel like he's good at drawing people in.
I see that.
He's charismatic. He's got charisma.
He got charisma. He's got a charisma score of 20 or something.
Yeah, exactly. He's got proficiency in charisma.
Yeah. We also find out that Royal's like, this country's not going to last much longer, like a few months, maybe half a year. And she's like, wait, I thought you wanted to wait. Like you said that to everyone else that you wanted to just wait a while and like let stuff happen. And he's like, yeah, I said that. I convinced myself that I couldn't really use their aid, so I wanted to kind of get rid of them, and then Keen and I would decide what to do. I fear our plans may have centered around more dangerous methods. So I want to know what his plan was now. Like, he didn't want to do the thing where the army comes in. So what exactly did he have in mind? He's going to poison the king?
Exactly. Yeah. There's something.
Yeah. So it seems like plotting an assassination.
Yeah.
And obviously, I mean, if Sarene's plan doesn't work, maybe we're going to fall back on some of these plans. Who knows? And yeah, it wraps up with Royal basically being like, if this Bjorn really is as dangerous as you think, then maybe you should be on the lookout, because that means some powerful forces are moving around here. And that's the end of our 2 chapters. It really is a lot of text in that Sarene chapter, but if you wanted, you could sum it up really quickly. Be like, yep, Sarene convinces all the noblemen to follow her.
Yeah, personally, which is pretty much what I did at the top of the episode. Right. So don't listen to all this crap we just did. I like the summary at the beginning.
I like the byplay and the personalities that we get here a lot, so good. I appreciate it.
Yeah. I don't mind this so much as I did in the Well of Ascension, like this kind of talk, assuming that it goes somewhere. You know, if in the next few chapters we're still just talking about what we're going to do, then maybe that would get frustrating. But right now it's okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Plus, I mean, it did sort of need to be an extended conversation, because if she won them over really quickly, it just would have felt too cheap.
Yeah, you wouldn't buy it. Yeah, I agree.
It really had to be more of a, I don't want to say fight, but definitely a struggle for her.
Well, and this is the first chance that she's gotten to show. We've heard a lot about, like, oh, she's really good at this politicking, but this is her first chance to actually go up against somebody and show it, other than, I guess, with the Gjorn when she ruined his speech. But that was almost a whole different thing, because it was like involved her knowledge of the religion.
Also, that was not an intellectual debate. That was her playing a dumbass.
Yep. But she was smart enough to play a dumbass. So
yeah, she was smart at being dumb. Wait.
Okay, so predicaments. What do you guys see coming as we continue here?
Yep, this one's a little tougher because, like I said, not a lot happened. I feel like we're, besides the stuff with Sarene, with Raoden, I feel like I'm almost in the same boat as I was with him in last week when we made predicaments. I mean, basically, he is building an organization, but it's a little bigger than what I had in mind previously, which was that he was just going to have a rival gang. He makes it pretty plain that he wants to lift Elantris out of the state it's currently in. He's for the betterment of Elantris and for helping these people that are around him. So that is his goal. How he's going to accomplish that right now, other than rebuilding the city physically and gathering people together to work in unity, I'm not sure. Again, I think maybe he's taking portions of food that can be grown because he's going to try to grow food, because I think it mentioned in this chapter as well that he took a portion of the food, and obviously he's not eating any of it because when Galadon offers him bread, he says no.
Yeah.
So there's got to be something else he's doing with the food pieces that he's taking. And so that's definitely something that I think may be on the horizon, is that he's going to try to actually build the city into something sustainable on its own. That way there's not so much tension between the different factions of the people there. But other than that, I'm more interested in him learning the magic and getting it to work, because again, like we talked about, there's no way this magic system exists and it's never going to work. Like, somebody's going to have to figure out how it works. So I'm excited to get to that point to see how that works, because I feel like this book has taken us a little more slowly into that, whereas, you know, in the Mistborn Era 1 books, we get into Allomancy pretty quickly.
Yep.
So this one is taking its time to get into the magic system. So I'm interested to get into that piece for sure. With Sarene, I think the kind of plan that she has made, despite the things that I said about it being kind of sudden and I don't know if this is going to work, the kind of plans that she has made sound like kind of a long-term thing, because it's like, it's not going to turn around the city that quickly. And I feel like if this book, stuff's going to have to happen faster in this book. So something's going to happen where her plan does not work out. Somebody's going to turn. Maybe this guy that I think is fishy is going to turn on him. But the plan's not going to work, because this is not going to be a book where we watch peasants eventually rise out of poverty because they can grow their own food and sell their own food and stuff like that. There was not enough time for that to occur unless there's some kind of major time skip in the book, which I don't see happening.
Well, we know there's a 3-month limit on Hrathen's mission here before the invasion. So
exactly. Yeah. So we're on a time crunch for sure. So there's no way that this plan's going to get off the ground in any real way. So something's going to, an event, maybe interference from the Gjorn is going to kind of put a stop to the plans that they've made. So that's my predicament for what's going to happen.
You know what? You made an interesting point that I glossed over when we got to that part. Galadon totally got like a whole loaf of bread this chapter, where this is the guy who traded 30 days of like help for one piece of jerky or something early on. Mm-hmm. He should be really grateful. He's getting food way more than he's probably had recently.
I think that's why Galadon's actually sticking with Raoden, because even though he complains, I think we're supposed to kind of figure out that's just kind of his nature to complain and stuff like that, because obviously he knows he's having, even if he had to run away from guys, he's had it better since Raoden showed up than he's had it the whole time he's been in Elantris, because obviously Raoden's got something cooking that's going to work out for him too. So
yeah, he's in on the ground floor of this pyramid scheme or whatever it is.
Pyramid
scheme. Wait. The ground floor of a pyramid is not where you want to be.
You want to be at the top. Yeah, okay. You want to be at the top.
Point. Our model is the trapezoid.
So yeah, I think Galadon's got it better off than he was before Raoden showed up for sure. Is it more exciting and different than what he had been experiencing? Sure. Is it probably more dangerous? Of course. But is he getting more benefits out of it? I think absolutely. So
sure. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's also just a demonstration of Raoden's personality, because we see it with this meeting and all these people who are just willing to follow him. He's just he just seems to be one of those people who, those really annoying people who you just can't hate, because like they do all this stuff and doesn't matter how crazy it seems, like they're just so charismatic and likable to the people around that people want to help them. Like, so I think, and I think that might be, like Raoden came into Elantris and he's just working the same magic on these people now. I mean, look at now Marishi or Maresh, however you want to pronounce it. Now that guy is just like, this man is our new god.
Yep.
Yeah, I think all three of the characters that we're following the perspective of are very charismatic in different ways, but I think each of them has a lot of charisma. Like Raoden is charismatic in a very kind of vague, almost not ethereal, but you know what I mean, like just kind of in a way where he just comes up with stuff, but he's like, oh, it's all gonna work out, man, don't worry about it.
So he's Kelsier.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Kelsier is the closest approximation in Sanderson's work to how I feel Raoden's personality is. He obviously, of course, we don't know him that well yet, but Raoden may not be as brutal as Kelsier is, but
I feel like
he's
Raoden's
definitely
more of a
charismatic
positive person than Kelsier.
Exactly. Yeah, more of a positive person for sure. And then, Sarene's more bullheaded, obviously, but she's also more charismatic in that she's very educated and knowledgeable. So, like, she will make you see her perspective as being the best perspective to see. At least that's what we've experienced so far. Like, her ideas are better than your ideas, and the people that are educated enough to understand what she's saying are going to acknowledge that. And then the Gjorn is has the zealot charisma. It's just like, no, but then also he does like the shady backdoor deals too. You scratch my back, I'm gonna scratch yours, all in the name of our god.
J-Death. Yay, J-Death.
Yeah, so one is positivity, one is logic, and one is fanaticism.
Interesting trio, interesting triad that we got here.
So that's a bit different from the Triforces.
Yeah.
Yeah, not courage, power, wisdom here. Well, maybe Raoden's courage and
Sarene could be wisdom, sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Gjorn could be power.
I guess
let's take it back. It's perfect.
It is. Yeah, it is that.
Any other predicaments, Dak? You got anything?
So, like, I agree with Joe. I think Edan is going to be like the thorn in the side for Sarene's group. I'm convinced on the basis of the similar names that the Idan guy in Hrathen's party is related to him in some way, and like they're both trying to both of those groups are aligned against Iadon, which is where Edan clearly wants to be. So yeah, I think they're just trying to play both sides and just hoping that one of these sides is going to come out on top of Iadon and then they'll be safe. But they don't realize the depth of Hrathen's problems. Well, no one really does, I guess. So yeah, I think that is going to be a massive problem for Sarene's group. I think Iadon is just going to get smashed in the middle of all this. Iadon's got no hope, but Edan is going to betray them to Hrathen in some way. Yeah, I mean, I know we talked about is Iadon responsible for like in some way responsible for the fall of Elantris and stuff like that. And it's like, look, he probably is, but it just seems like everyone in this world is out to get him. So I don't know what forces he has at his disposal, but he's probably just going to get smashed because every other faction seems to be aligned against him. So
yeah, we find out that even his good buddy is against him in this chapter. So, and he doesn't seem like the kind of dude who has a lot of friends. So
no, he seems like the sort of guy who would alienate most of his friends anyway. So
yep, especially once he became king, and he's like, I'm important now.
Yep. Oh, now he's king. He's too good for the rest of us. But so there's that. For the Raoden side, I think like Joe pretty much already summed up everything I think is going to happen there. The only prediction I have on the inside Elantris side of things is the whole thing about the children. Now, to go to Joe's theory that one of the gang leaders is Raoden's mother, I got to thinking of that and thinking of the children. I'm just like, is she basically like any children that come in, she is snapping them up and saving them and trying to, keep them out of harm's way? Because from the little we know about Raoden's mother, she was a good woman. Like, she obviously loved him enough to take him to Elantris to get his broken leg fixed. I think, people talked about her. I think Keen maybe mentioned her earlier on and said, she was really nice. Like, she was a good person. So I feel like she would not let any harm come to the children. So she's trying to get them out of harm's way and get them away from the Mad Baron and the other one. What was the other one?
Sheor is the other one.
What was Sheor's deal?
Sheor is the one.
I don't think we know much about
the brutal guy, right?
Yeah, he's the one with like the crazy the really crazy followers who chased him, routing down that first day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically,
okay. So
he's like the barbarian king. It sounds like to me.
Yeah. Okay. So neither of these guys in charge are people you want children around. So I think Raoden's mother is just like I am not letting either of these guys get the kids.
Well, that would definitely be much nicer than the theory that we were working on so far, that somebody was snapping them up for less savory reasons. So okay, I'm I'm
I didn't
theologically
say, I
on
never
board
said
with
it was
this.
less savory. I just said that somebody's snapping them up.
I'm on
Yeah.
board with Dak's idea for now, just because it's not as unpleasant.
I never said it was unpleasant. You made that assumption.
Oh, okay, sure, yeah, it's all me. This guy over here with the fucking kids. I don't know what that. I'm
Yeah, I don't know what you're doing, buddy.
Okay, I like this prediction. It's got some hopefulness. This is like a positive, like something's good's gonna happen or better than
Well,
alternatives.
I just feel like Raoden can't be the only person in Elantris trying to make it better.
Right.
I don't think the other two leaders really have any hope from what little we know of them of, trying to improve things. They just seem like absolute nutcases. But if we're right, if Joe's right and Raven's mother is the other one, it's like, all right, maybe she's got her faculties in place. She's got her head screwed on. So, yeah,
Maybe
there's the token good gang.
Maybe somebody somewhere gives a shit. That'd be good. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like Arkham City where you get your three gangs of Joker, Two-Face, and Penguin. It's like, no, we can have a good gang in here.
Okay. We don't have any new emails or reviews or anything this week, so we can jump right to for next time. We're doing 2 more chapters, so 12 and 13, and so we got what Hrathen's doing the same time as these other 2 that we just read, and then we'll go to Raoden and his next section, which I think you guys will really like this next Raoden chapter. It'll answer some questions, be very interesting for people.
Okay.
Excellent.
Yeah, so if anyone's reading along, that is for next week, chapters 12 and 13. Join us for those. If you would like to send us some emails, the address is thesanderlanche@gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram and all those kind of places.
As long as nobody else is emailing about dinosaur erotica, I'm good.
So yeah, come back next time. 2 more chapters, music by Miracle of Sound, and Wuzzing to the Time of Next. Colo?
My name's Elantris. Get up, get out in the city of dreams.